Howdy, everybody. Welcome to Fuselage video number 4, the aft fuselage video number 4. In this particular video, I'm going to be running all of the wires and cabling that is in the back part of the plane there. Vans sells there's like a wiring harness kind of section of wire that you kind of bring up to the front there, and it has that little, I don't know if you can even see it, a little plastic thing in the front that hooks onto the bell crank part there. And then you run the wires, tying them in with zip ties kind of along the bell crank ribs and then up the bulkhead and kind of down that J stiffener piece, and it'll run all the way to the back of the plane in that J stiffener. And so that's what this video is putting in all of the wires. And it wasn't easy, but it wasn't hard. You just got to kind of just keep working at it. You put the zip ties and you don't tie them down very tight because you need to be able to move them. And you'll see me do that a couple of times. I kind of put them in, and then readjust them. At one point, you measure one of the wires to make sure it's long enough. So you'll see me do that. I did buy some really nice snippers. You see them there, the red ones on the bottom part of the plane there up front. They're very nice. They were kind of expensive for little wire snips, but they're the flat snippers. I don't know what they're called, but Build Fly Go, he did a video on what he uses to do his avionics, and so I got basically the same kind of snippers that he had, and they're really nice. They were expensive, but they're really nice. And so there I am, just putting the wires where they go towards the back of the plane, because once you get to that back part, they kind of break off, and some go one place and another set go another place, and you got to make sure you have the right wires and the right colored wires going to the right place there at the back, because some go to the elevator trim and the light, the strobe light that's on the rudder, and then some go to there's a couple of coax cables that go that same direction, and they are for the ELT, and I forget what they're all for, but a bunch of wires head back that direction. And then I got some tube heat shrink tape that you can print on the little label maker there. And so I was making labels for the wires in the back so I know which ones go where and what ones they are. So I highly recommend that, and order a few different sizes of the heat shrink tubing because one size does not fit all. Sometimes it will be one wire that's very, very small, like a 24 gauge wire, 22 gauge wire. And sometimes you have 3 or 4 of those hooked together in a bundle. So that makes it bigger. And then sometimes you shoot even up to coax cable size. So you need a much bigger piece of the heat shrink. So I highly recommend getting multiple sizes of the heat shrink tubing. And then wire management is kind of crazy, but it's not too bad. So there, I'm just kind of running that wire right now. And then you'll see me change. Actually the missionaries from our church came over to see the airplane, so they were excited. Hopefully they told all of their families to subscribe. I'm not sure if they did or not. So if you are the Sister Missionaries family and you are watching this video, let me know so I know that they told you to subscribe. So I kind of show off the plane to whoever wants to come by. I don't know if anybody else building a plane does that, but it is kind of cool. And so I just was showing it off. My kids are kind of sick of it now because they've seen it so many times. They're like, yeah, Dad, whatever. Once it's flying, I think they might have a different outlook, hopefully. So my daughter came up with a Yo Mama joke, and so I wanted to share the Yo Mama joke. Um, but just understand we were talking about the 80s and 90s and growing up in the 80s and 90s and how in the world did Yo Mama jokes start and that whole conversation. And so my daughter came up with this Yo Mama joke. So don't blame me, it is her fault. So Yo Mama is so old, she pre-ordered the Bible. Thought that was fantastic. Oh, so, that just kills me. In the day and age of pre-ordering things, I guess that joke makes perfect sense. So that was pretty funny. I appreciate her sense of humor. And so I ran there's a telephone cable that goes back towards there. And so you kind of saw me running that telephone cable, and then reworking it, kind of pushing it back because it was too long and whatnot. And now I'm putting in the little, what are they called? Little grommets in the holes. And so you'll see me stop and think here because I'm like, how in the world do I get that wire through the grommet? It won't fit. And then you read the instructions and you're like, oh, I'm supposed to cut the grommet in half, put the wire in it, and then slide the grommet into the hole. See, here I am. I'm like, that's not going to fit over the edge. What am I going to do? It's not going to fit over the back edge either. Maybe what's going on? So go read the instructions and then be like, oh, that's what I'm supposed to do. So I had to reread the instructions. I got my knife out and then started cutting it along the slit. And here I'll show you a picture real quick. It does have this in the instructions, but it's not on the page that you would expect to see. It's not on the wiring page. It's on a different page. And so I was like, oh, maybe you're not supposed to do it to the wiring ones, but yes, you are. You have to, the telephone wire itself won't fit through there um, at all. So you have to cut the little grommets in half and then slide them over the wire and then slide them into the hole. So just be aware of that as you're doing it. Oh, there's management. She's letting me know. That was a much longer conversation. I cut most of that video out. She was letting me know what was going on. And then this is the rudder cables. And the rudder cables are just thick cables basically that run from the front of the fuselage back to the back. Then they hook onto the rudder horn. So you see a picture here. That's the rudder cables. They get crisscrossed, and so they feed into each of those grommets. Kind of at each bulkhead, there's a spot for the rudder cable as you put them in there. And then you just kind of twirl them up. It says to stow them at, in the forward part of the aft fuselage. And you do get a lot of the forward part of the aft fuselage or the aft section of the aft fuselage or the, bottom of the lower section. And so it's kind of interesting. And then here's the right side of the plane. I'm putting the J stiffeners in and then clecoing them in. And it has you not put that right side of the fuselage on until you have the wiring in, because it's a lot easier to run that wiring when you can actually reach straight across and put it in. And so that made it a little bit easier. And then once you get both sides clecoed on, that structure becomes very, very solid. It was shocking how strong it is just being clecoed together. It was kind of cool to see. And then I put the what do they call that, longeron? They put the longeron there, just kind of slide it into the holes, and then cleco it where it goes. And that's pretty much the end of this video. If you have any questions or want to leave me any comments, please feel free to leave a comment and let me know what you think. And subscribe if you're not, and like this video. Have fun. We'll talk to you later. Bye.